It is finally the end of the draft, and several of our buffs have gone to various places around the NFL. Some of them drafted, some of them as undrafted free agents. We'll talk about that today. And then also Shedeur's road to get where he's at right now with the Cleveland Browns and all the turmoil that he had to go through, and maybe some reasons why he had to go through that, and what the Browns think of him and what his future holds in Cleveland. All of that and more on this episode of Alpine Garage Sports. All right, guys. So we are in, we are in recovery mode now. There was a lot going on today. A lot going on today. Basically, the first 2 days of the draft were a no-go for us. Just quiet, and other than all the fireworks that happened with Sheduer and his family. Obviously, we'll go through that here in a little bit. But just the fact that we were able to make it through this draft, and we come out going into day 3 looking like the sky is falling. And man, I had to get involved in a whole bunch of chats. I say I had to get involved. I got involved in a whole bunch of chats that were all kind of everybody was ready to jump off a roof, it seemed like. And there was a whole bunch of back and forth, and everybody kind of getting salty about things and blaming, all kinds of people, blaming coach, blaming the NFL, blaming the NFL owners and coaches and GMs. Some people were even blaming, Sheduer in some cases. But the reality is everybody was really upset. Obviously, this is we as fans have invested a lot of years of our time into college football, and in this specific case, we have a guy and a family, a guy by Shedeur Sanders and a family, being the Sanders family, that a lot of us have gone back, 40 years, 30 years watching Coach Prime. And we want the best for this family. At least most of us do, I should say. Most of us want the best for this family. And it was much watch TV, man. It was must watch TV. And so we're going to go through that here in a minute. But first, I want to say congratulations to all the Buffs that found their way into an NFL franchise. And if you pick up on someone that I missed, throw it in the comments, please. I'll be watching the comments and making sure that we're all good here. So obviously Travis went to Jacksonville, second pick, which I think is probably the perfect, it is the perfect place for him based on what he's told us and based off of what, as far as I know Travis a little bit, fished with him, talked about fishing with him. And I know that he loves to fish in Jacksonville, is right in the dead center of some of the best fishing in the country. So he's going to be happy there. Plus, it's a great team. I'm not a Jacksonville fan, but I like Trevor Lawrence. He's actually on my fantasy team. I'm going to try to pick up Travis on my fantasy team, and we've been getting together. My fantasy team has gotten together through chat the last couple of days, trying to figure out. I did really well last year, so I'm like last in my draft. Whoever gets Travis, so they're getting both offense and defense on Travis, because if that's so, it's like having two players, right? That's kind of unfair for those of you who are in any kind of a fantasy league. I think you know what I'm going to be talking about here. But anyway, then Sheduer goes to Cleveland, top of the 5th round, and that was a lot of drama going into it, a lot of drama surrounding it. Okay. I cut some clips and I'm going to try to play them today, but I don't think I'm going to be able to on the snore format that I'm using right now, but I'll tell you where to find them. But we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. LeJohntay Wester went to the Ravens. Now, out of all of these picks, LeJohntay going to the Ravens, LeJohntay has an opportunity to make a team that was a playoff team last year, and he's going to be catching balls from Lamar Jackson. Like, I can only imagine that LeJohntay is probably one of the happiest guys on earth right now. Not knowing if he was going to be drafted or not, ended up being drafted by a really good team. I mean, he could be in the Super Bowl next year, catching a pass from Lamar Jackson, guys. I mean, I can't script it any better than that. That's like, you know, Coach Prime and everybody, who's ever been a part of a draft has said sometimes it's better maybe not going in the first round or not going in the first part of the draft, but ending up with a team that could just rocket your career immediately. And this is something that could happen for LeJounte. So I'm super happy about him. And then my one of my family's favorite players, Jimmy Horn, we had an opportunity to spend some time with him before he really even made it to the team. I mean, he had just literally made it to the team, and he is such a genuine guy. My family fell in love with him, and they've been rooting for him amongst all of our buffs, but over the top of those buffs, I'm telling you, this entire time. And he got to go to Carolina. Now, those are the only drafted ones we have, but I say only, guys, that's four guys. You know how long it's been since we've had four players taken in a draft? I haven't looked that up yet, but I bet you it's been 30 years since we've had four people taken in a single draft. 30 years, 35 years. I want to say it was probably 94 that we might have had four. I can't remember now, but I'll take a look at that. But that's pretty epic, right? And then we had a whole bunch of undrafted free agents. We had Shiloh signed with Tampa and Will Shepherd signed with Tampa. So they're going to be going together, which is really cool. And again, Tampa, really great team. Baker Mayfield is one of my favorite quarterbacks. Obviously, I'm an OU guy too, and that's where Baker came from. But Will Shepherd has an opportunity to take passes from Baker Mayfield. That's pretty incredible, actually. And then Shiloh being on just an epic defense, he'll have an opportunity to make that team. So that's really awesome. And then we have Cam Silburn Craig and BJ Green went to the Jags, so they're going together. So they're taking our guys in pairs, which is really cool, right? Did I miss anybody? I saw. Let's see. I'm gonna just scroll through this really fast. I want to see if anybody else saw anything else other than that. But if you see anything, three buffs on the so Chunk, you said three buffs on Jacksonville now. That's right. That's right. That is absolutely right. So you got BJ, you got Cam Silman Craig, and you got Travis. Man, how did I not connect that in my head? Like that's wicked. That's like might as well call them the Jacksonville Buffaloes at this point, because they're all going to make the team. But what an exciting day, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more picked up, and there's probably more. Twitter is a fire right now, man. Twitter is absolutely a fire. I can tell you when that's the case when I go to put out a tweet, and it doesn't hardly get read because there's 70 million tweets on the exact same subject with folks that have way more followers than I do. So I get thrown out. Now, Brian C. Chidozi put on his Twitter something like "Thank God" is what Chidozi put on there. So obviously, it sounds like he was picked up, but everybody in the comments was like, "Where?" Okay, to the Texans. Good, thank you, Chunk. Appreciate that. So that must have just come out. So yeah, Chidozi going to the Texans, man. That's a great team for him too. What a great. I love the Texans. I think they're great. 70 million tweets. It's a lot of tweets. All right. Now, just a funny little note here, because this draft was like upside down for a lot of reasons. And we're going to talk about that tonight. But one of the most surprising things about today, and I didn't hear his name a lot surrounding the draft, so maybe it's not as surprising to some people as it is to me, but Donovan Edwards, who is the famous running back from Michigan, that was on the cover of EA 25 with Travis, went undrafted. Okay, now I know there's some stuff surrounding him, but I thought for sure he would have been drafted in the late rounds. So just crazy stuff happening left and right in this draft. But I wanted to spend some time on Shedeur's journey and celebrate his going to the Browns here for a little bit. But also, I'm gonna put my buff. I'm going to take my buff hat. I'm going to keep it on, but I'm going to take it off and I'm going to put it over here to the side because there are some things surrounding his journey into this and going through this process and watching the NFL Network and watching a lot of the guys that are NFL vets talk about this subject for the last 5 months, and especially I've been on overload this last week, which I'm sure all of you have, and I've been digesting and digesting and digesting and coming up with my own kind of feelings about this. And so I'm going to let you know about those. And some of those are going to be very unpopular. I will warn you about this. They're going to be unpopular, but it's a cautionary tale. These drafts are every single draft. I mean, you have Heisman winners that end up getting picked first in the draft, and then basically losing everything within 2 years and becoming almost destitute because they didn't learn lessons that happened from a previous generation of football players. And then you have people in this draft that some of them made hay when we didn't think they had it, and then others we thought were going to, like Sheduer, were going to be taken in the first round, and I'm gonna say it, and fell to the fifth. Right? What caused it? Everybody's got an opinion. There's 1,000 opinions, and I've got my opinion, and I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. But first, let's not forget how we got here. We got here. Yeah. Ree says the NFL draft was exhausting. I agree with you on that. It was probably the most exhausting draft I've ever been through. So I'm going to throw up some stats here for you guys to see, so we can see kind of where we came from on this. Sheduer 50 games, so a long career, right? At a high level. So he was a starting quarterback, right? Of every team that he was on in college. 70.1 completion percentage, one of the best in college football over that time period, 14,347 yards. And oddly enough, I think the only person who beat that this year is the guy that was drafted before him, which is Dylan Gabriel, who was in college for 47 years and is 38 years old. And he had like 19,000 yards, right? Because he played 6 years in college. 151 TDs, and that is running and passing, 151 touchdowns. The guy knows how to find the end zone. And he was a top 30 quarterback in the class of 21. So being a top 30 quarterback, he could have gone to, a Power 4 team, or at that time a Power 5 team if he wanted to, but he wanted to go to Jacksonville and play for his father. And so from that standpoint, all the way through Colorado, coming to Colorado in year 3 of his career, after having 2 stellar seasons at Jacksonville State, or Jackson State, sorry, at Jackson State, was, he came to Colorado, and we were asleep. We were absolutely 100% asleep. And when Coach Prime came, and then found out he was going to bring his son, and then found out that Travis Hunter was coming, at that point, that gave us new hope. And then for 2 years, we were on a tear. And I'm not gonna kind of go down through those, because you all of them, right? The 4-8 season, the 9-4 season. It was a build up to a draft that Sheduer was going to absolutely be in the top 3 quarterbacks, and we knew that going in there. The other quarterbacks, and you know who the top 3 were? It was Cam Ward, his buddy, who coached by the same coach, quarterbacks coach anyway. Then you had Sheduer, and then you had Jackson Dart. Those are the 3 that were over and over again recycled and recycled and recycled for the last 5 months. And Cam Ward never came off the top. We, as Colorado Buffaloes, talked about Sheduer taking that top QB spot, but no one else did. Everybody else believed that Cam was going to be the person to take that. He has a lot of stats. I mean, he was in college again for a long time as well. I'm sorry, the Jackson State. I'm very sorry. The Jackson State. I should have said it right. But my point is that it really, the next 2 quarterbacks were Sheduer and at first a very distant third was Jackson Dart, right? And I said it on this live stream, and here's where some unpopular things are going to come in here. I said it in a live stream, and I want to say it was January. I did very little live streams for the past 3 months because I've been too busy, but Jackson Dart impressed me in a lot of ways. He didn't impress me more than Sheduer did. And I'm pretty sure that everybody on here has exactly the same feelings I do. Sheduer is more refined. Sheduer is, you can tell his presence in the pocket is top notch. Uh, the thing about Jackson that I really liked was he had a grittiness to him that it reminded me of Baker Mayfield. Uh, Baker is he's kind of a thick kid, and had no problem with basically running people over, or at least trying to. And that was Jackson Dart at Ole Miss. Actually, that was Jackson Dart throughout his career. He was constantly searching for the last 2 yards and made a lot of contact, which drove his coaches crazy. But I knew by looking at that, watching him at Ole Miss, and Sheduer and Cam, and Cam, I think you guys have heard me say that I think Cam is an exceptional quarterback. Do not get me wrong. But there are some things about Cam that I think Shedur's better. And so I think they're almost interchangeable. You can put Sheduer in Cam's spot at Nashville, and I think he would do just as good as Cam's going to do there. I honestly do. Um, but then as time went on, the situation started to separate a little bit more. Jackson Dart started to gain wind, and you started to hear Sheduer losing wind. Okay, we all heard this. You know, we were talking about him going number 2 to the Browns at one point. Actually, early on, it was going to be Cam Ward, then Sheduer, and then you heard him falling that the Browns are going to take Travis, and then so Sheduer is going to fall to 3, and then you heard that 3 might be they don't know what they're going to do with the Giants, so then he might fall to 9. Which is going to be the Saints. And then if he didn't go there's something going on there too. And then all of a sudden he was going to fall to 21 with the Steelers, and then on and on and on. Right. We heard this, and every time I watched something, they would have him falling to the next step, and then falling to the next step. And then there might be a couple of trades to get him up a little higher, and then falling down to the next step again. And it was like, oh my gosh, it was ridiculous. The amount of conversation that was going on, right? And during the middle of this, you had Sheduer not going to the Senior Bowl, okay? And this is another part that some people probably won't like, but he passed up the Senior Bowl. Okay, no big deal. So did Cam, right? Then he bypassed the Combine, and so did Cam, right? Okay, so what is the difference there, right? Why would we all know that there are going to be players that bypass either the whole combine or part of the combine, don't play in those extra games after the national championship is played, because they don't think they need to. They think they have enough tape. They think that they have the relationships. They've had the conversations with the pro teams. They've had conversations with scouts. They've had conversations with their with the representation. And they're saying, oh, thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. Super chat. Thank you very much, guys. Let me pop that up here real quick. Thank you, Hippie. I appreciate that. The point is that you have a whole bunch of people talking in his ear, right? And we know this. We know that it comes down to a bunch of voices giving someone who's never been in this process before advice on what to do. And probably most of them were like, hey, you're good, man. Like, your stats are there. You took Colorado from nothing to almost the Big 12 championship. Like, we were one game away from the Big 12 championship. You've done enough. And you're solid number 2. Jackson Dart is so far back, you're not going to have any problem with him. So Sheduer, and this is my conjecture on this, because you hear this through sources and you see it on Well-Off and things like that. He's set right at number 2. What did Jackson Dart do? Jackson Dart played in those post games. Jackson Dart went to the combine, right? And he showed up extremely well at the combine. Like, he did great at the combine. And you can suck. I mean, Tyler Slow sucked at the combine, and he got drafted ahead of Sheduer. So I mean, what does that tell you right there? Those guys took any little bit that they could to show themselves off because they knew they were the underdogs. And if they screwed up, then they screwed up, but at least they tried, right? And that's, I think, what the thought process on this is I'm going to give everything I have, and hopefully they're going to see the intent of what I do. I may not run the fastest 40, but I'm going to get out there and I'm going to show you what I can do, and I'm not going to hide behind it. And I'm also going to show you that I can be molded and I can be taught. So I am a combine person. Not that I don't think that people who aren't involved in the combine are making a mistake, but it's there for a reason. These teams love it. They absolutely love it when players, future players in the NFL, use the tools that are available to show them what they're getting. Okay. Inviting them to come and work out for them, private workout, going to the combine, coming to a pro day, doing the playing in post games. Those are all ways that these NFL teams evaluate talent, and they really like it, right? When people adhere to that mold. Like, we're going to put those tools out there, and every player's like, I will take that tool, and I will take that tool, and I will take that tool, and I will do whatever I have to do to show you what I have. And it may not be the best out there. Someone like Matty Golden is going to run like a 4.29 and make my 4.53 look like I have bricks on my feet. Okay, I get that, but I'm going to show up, and I'm going to be present, and I'm going to be there. That is not a tried and true recipe. Okay. Lots of guys went to the combine, didn't get drafted. Lots of guys went to the combine and had a great combine and didn't get drafted. But what my point is this is, while Sheduer was, had the good feeling that I'm going to be the number 2 guy. I'm going to be the number 2 quarterback. Sorry. I'm going to be the number 2 quarterback. Jackson went out there and he knew he was an underdog, and he went out there and he did everything he could possibly do, leave it all on the field and walk away from it. And if he wasn't drafted in the first 3-4 rounds, it wasn't for lack of trying, right? Something happened. Okay. So you have that. So I'm going to throw that out there, and I'm afraid to look at the comments, guys, but to me, that made a difference. Okay. I feel like, from what I've listened to, because at this day and age, to get breaking news, you have to be inside a football program, or you have to be inside a major network or something like that. You have to have those relationships for the breaking news. But once the news is broke, we all can digest that. Okay. And that's what this show is. I don't have a lot of sources anywhere. People aren't calling me and Browns aren't calling me and telling me what they're going to do. But you can read the tea leaves. You can listen to the prognosticators that actually have that ear and have those sources. And over a period of time, you can start to kind of draw conclusions about what happened, if the conclusion isn't even just given it to you. And they gave it to us, right? That, there were meetings that were had at all the teams, and multiple quarterbacks went through these, multiple players went through these meetings, right? And those meetings either went well or they didn't go well. They saw a fit or they didn't see a fit. But it's the way that I kind of see it is, I interview a lot of people. I hire a lot of people for my business. And I see a resume, and a resume comes in and it has all the experience in the world that I'm looking for. And that experience is directly relatable to getting results. Okay. Which is really, at the end of the day, that's what we want, is results. An applicant could come in, sit down, have a conversation, and there's no connection there. It doesn't feel like a good fit. Maybe there's too much talk about, what they'll do to change the organization and things like that. And you're sitting back there thinking, our organization is pretty good. Is it possible that you could learn our organization instead of you telling us what you're going to do for our organization, right? Not that that's a bad thing, but and then another applicant comes in and says, I've got a great resume and I'm moldable. I'm ready to, you tell me what you need and I'm going to do it. I can bend myself around any program you put me in. And you might come out of that conversation with a completely different feeling about somebody. and order about how you're going to do things, right? There's also been a whole lot coming out about the Giants having significant ties to Ole Miss. There are several coaches on the staff that either have relatives that go there, they went there themselves, they coached there themselves, or they have personal relationships with people who are on that staff currently. And so there is an Ole Miss connection there that was proven. And I don't remember who it was. I would love to cite my source, but if you guys go back there and you look at that, you're going to see it. But it was it is evident that Ole Miss has a tie there, right? And so that possibly could have been the whole Giants hang up. Cleveland, man, I don't know. They picked up a couple of quarterbacks. Their quarterback room went from basically nothing with Watson to having Flacco and Pickett in there. And so now you have Flacco and Pickett who have a significant amount of experience. Flacco's won a Super Bowl. And then they're going to be drafting another quarterback, right? That's what we heard. They're going to be drafting their quarterback of the future. And then they didn't, and then they didn't, and then they didn't, and then they didn't. And then they draft Dylan Gabriel, right? Not a terrible quarterback. I'm not saying he's a terrible quarterback. I watched him in college for a really long time, right? And the guy knows how to play football. He does. He is not, they say that Sheduer is small. Here's the thing. I'm going to go off on this for just a second. They say that Shedeur's size might have held him back, right? Barely 6'2" and barely 212 pounds or whatever it was. But Dylan Gabriel's 5'11", 200. Like, he's super tiny compared to most typical NFL quarterbacks. Pardon me one second. I got a big old husky here that's having a fit. Hang on. All right, get inside. Go. Get inside. Go ahead. Go. All right. He had to get in there. I'm sorry, guys. That was terrible. So I don't even know where I was. Anyway, so Dylan Gabriel, great quarterback. I have no problem with Dylan Gabriel. I have a problem with Dylan Gabriel over Shedeur Sanders, right? And I don't think there's anybody, probably including most Browns fans. I did go on to a Browns, like chat site, and was just looking really quick at some things. And no one really had any inflammatory statements about either one, but I got the general idea that they kind of like Sheduer over Dylan Gabriel in this kind of battle of, and if anybody's a Browns fan, put it in the comments. Let me know what you think. But in this battle of the rookies, Sheduer has the upper hand from a fan standpoint, in my opinion, and from what little bit I've seen. But they still have a huge room. I mean, 4 quarterbacks, right? One of them being Flacco. And, I'm not a guy that thinks that you can bring in a guy that's been in the league for 15 or 20 years and they're going to turn your entire organization around. It's happened before. It happened with Brady, but when Brady went to Tampa. But at the same time, not everybody's Brady. And I like the fact that they think that, Flacco and Pickett are going to be very steady for them. And by the way, if you guys didn't know this, they have a second number 1 pick next year that they got in a trade because they were super smart. Like this is like, if you've ever watched the movie Draft Day, and if you haven't, you need to watch it. There's a movie out there called Draft Day. And this was like almost exactly the same scenario as that movie. It's creepy how kind of exact it is with the quarterback that everybody wanted to take first. And then he started falling and people were freaking out and there were trades done. And at the end of the day, the Browns came out ahead and they came out with extra picks. So next year they get another pick in the first round. And as you know, there are going to be some notable quarterbacks in that draft. So, they don't necessarily have to have the quarterback, the quarterback that they need for their future. They don't have to have it this year. I think they do have it this year, and that's the reason why we're talking about this. But they don't have to. So if something happens and they decide that they're going to burn the thing to the ground again at the end of the year, they still have those picks next year. And there's that big conjecture about whether Manning is going to come out next year. He has another year after this year. And every Manning has always done the 4 years of school. So would he stay in another year? That would only give him 1 year in college, really, as a starter. Would he stay another year? I haven't been on the Texas forums to look, but it's quite possible that he stays another year so he can get 2 full years. He's not in a huge hurry. His family's got money upon money, and his legacy, barring him getting hurt, he's gonna be number one in any draft he's in. If he wanted to go and take grad and take another year and go 3 more years, he could do that and still go number one. And as you can tell, NIL and this pay for, not pay for play, but this revenue sharing that's coming into the NCAA, these guys don't have to go pro. They do not have to go pro, especially the good ones. They can stay in a really good situation in college, and they can take their revenue share, which is going to be significant in some cases, and their NIL, which is obviously significant for Arch. And they're making as much money as they would in the NFL, and they're doing it at a college level. So is Arch going to come out next year? Who knows? But if Cleveland wants to and has the opportunity to in the first round, they could take Arch next year, right? So who knows what's going to happen here, guys? What I'm saying is that there's so much. We went through the stuff that happened in the background, and then you had the stuff right before the draft that happened, which is you had the prank phone call, and you had just all these little things. The party that was thrown on day one when he unfortunately wasn't taken, and it just, you could tell the room. The thing that broke my heart the most about that in that moment was when the Giants traded back up into the first round at pick 25, right? So he wasn't picked at 2. He wasn't picked at 3. He wasn't picked at 9. And then he wasn't picked at 21. And it was getting very sickening, right? And then the Giants came back up and they took the 25th draft pick. And so at that point, I screamed at the top of my lungs, that Sheduer right there. Sheduer is going to get taken right there. And then you saw on the Well-Off Media video, you saw him watching all of the brass of the Giants high-fiving each other in their war room and stuff like that. And at that time that he had not received a phone call. And it seems to me like you always receive a phone call to kind of prepare yourself just minutes before they call your name, right? And that didn't happen. And you could see it in his face. He had spent time with these folks. He had gone out there at least one time that I know of, and I think it was actually twice, to meet, work out, interview, those kinds of things. So you get to know those people, and the conversations go well, and everything looks good, and you set your heart on going to a place like New York, and all of these things. It's just such a great thing, and to see those guys go and pick somebody else, I could just see kind of the air coming out of the tent there, and it was a little bit heartbreaking, but also the fire that it stoked at that point is probably going to burn for a really, really, really long time. So, it would have been poetic if he had gone to the Cowboys, because I really wanted the Cowboys to pick him up. I'm like, come on, Jerry's got a great relationship with, and so does Sean Payton too, with the Broncos. With those two relationships, why didn't one of them just step in, especially in the third, let's say the 4th round? Okay. Let's say the Cowboys can't afford another quarterback because they paid so much to Dak. But let's just say, I can do $5 million for a quarterback that could take over for Dak when Dak's done with his contract. But they didn't. Where is that relationship? What happened there? Sean Payton went and hung out with Coach Prime at the pro day and buddied around there, and they had an opportunity to take him so he could stay in Colorado, but he didn't. So, those things will come out later, right? Those are the things that make me wonder, what was all this about? What was all of these relationships and conversations and the things that we saw in Well Off and the things we saw in other media that just assured us that one of those teams were going to take him. The Saints were all in, right? We heard the Saints were all in. The Steelers, I heard, were all in. They didn't think that he was going to fall that low to 21. Nobody thought at first that he was going to fall to 21. So the Steelers were having to come up with alternative plans. So crazy enough, he falls to the fifth, and he gets drafted. And on that Well Off media video, when it almost felt like he was caught off guard, and the family was just dancing and having a great time, and it was funny because I'm thinking Sheduer would have like his routine all set up and everything for when he's picked, and he probably did, right, when it was in the first rounds. But then when he got picked in the fifth round, it almost just seemed like, holy crap. And they just started dancing, and it just was like almost like chaos there for a minute. So you could tell they were really excited that he had that opportunity, especially with the Browns, because if you're going to make an impact, going to a team that already has a quarterback that's set and it already is a championship team, you're not doing a lot to get them anywhere. A team like the Browns, their success could literally be riding on his back. And that is a great place for him to be because he's done it several times in his career. So it almost matches, right? I am not a Browns fan in my history because I am a Broncos fan. The Browns are kind of out for me, the catch and all that other stuff in the 80s. But I will be a Browns fan this year. I'm 100% going to be a Browns fan without exception this year because I think that he is going to make this team. I really do. And when you're talking about his contract and stuff like that, so the first rounds, especially the very first pick, is about $50 million. Okay, it's about $13 million a year, signing bonus included, those kinds of things, and then there's some performance metrics that are in there as well. That's the first one. So $50 million, right? Where Sheduer is taken, it's about $5 million. Okay, so it's about $45 million less. It's a little over $1 million. Signing bonus is kind of a bigger portion of that. And it's a 4-year contract. The team can pick up a 5th year, but it's based off of specific NFL metrics that they put in place. And in the first round, they're guaranteed contracts. Every other round, they're not guaranteed. Now, they can be guaranteed. They can guarantee the contract, but most teams don't guarantee those contracts. And for obvious reasons, because they're taking a lot of players on. They have to have their cap of players, so they can't really go over, a certain amount of players. They're taking on a whole lot of undrafted free agents, hoping that they're going to find 1, 2, maybe 3 dogs that are going to come in there that they can, bring into the organization in a backup role or on a scout team role. And so there's just because they've made the team, they haven't made the team, right? Even though they were drafted, there's still opportunity that, they might be traded again or something like that. So it's still uncertain where these guys are going to go. And this leads me to my last point on, and it may not be my last point, but I think a valid point on this whole Browns thing. And I wanted this video so you guys could see it, but if you haven't seen it, this is Well Off media, okay? Sheduer takes the call from the Browns. You see him walking around, and the Browns are basically, normally you hear, and I've heard a few conversations, and so have you, people taking the phone calls are like, hey, how would you like to be a Brown? Come on down to our organization and be part of our family and things like that. And this conversation was, I hope you're getting ready to work. Yes, sir. Keep in mind, you're going to have to work hard. Yes, sir. We're looking for you to come in and make a name for yourself by working hard. Yes, sir. So it was like, really, it was weird. Like, and this is just me talking, right? You guys may have a different view on this. It came off way flat, right? Came off flat, right? Like, I had 10 people to choose, and you were my last guy that I chose. And the reason why I chose you is because you're the last guy, and you're just going to have to work your butt off, right? Then the second thing that hit me, it was like, um, you know, I don't know, I'm trying to say this right. It almost felt like an overtone of you've kind of been given the starting job your entire career, but here you're gonna have to work for it. It came off like that, like really kind of sticky. And then, and this is the video I wanted to show you, and I'm gonna post it on X later. So if you haven't followed me on X, it's Alpine Garage SPT. It is it is the brass um, of the Browns at their media event after the draft. And someone asked him about Sheduer. And they were very solemn about this. And basically, he said that he was kind of backpedaling on, he thought that he didn't think that Sheduer was undervalued. He also didn't think Sheduer was overvalued. So basically, they were saying that he was valued as a fifth round pick. Then they said that their expectation is that that he has had success where he's been, and he's been favored where he's been, but they need Sheduer to know that he has to come into the Browns organization and work for everything that he gets. That nothing's going to be given to him based off of what he's done in college. Essentially, is what they said, and again came off very flat, right? And then Jake Schwanitz on his X showed the war room when they were drafting him and they announced him. And normally you see them high-fiving or whatever, right? And they started doing that less and less through the draft. So I will say that. But when it came to Sheduer, it was basically like a golf clap, and like their bodies didn't move. It was just a golf clap. It was like this, right? And I can't remember who the GM is there or something, but he was kind of like, kind of doing this, like, all right, what's next? Everybody in the background just kind of just sitting there doing nothing. And again, there wasn't a lot of, I don't know, man. It feels weird. I'm going to say it because this is my show, and I can say whatever the heck I want to. You're right. I don't have to worry about ESPN or not getting access to the Browns. I don't care. So it just felt like the Browns didn't give two flips about taking Sheduer. And it's going to be awesome. And I'm going to say this emphatically. When Sheduer goes out there and does exactly what they say, and he is going to focus, understand that he's got to essentially at this point beat out Gabriel, because Gabriel was, I'm going to say he's got to beat out Gabriel because Gabriel was taken before him. So they obviously think more of Gabriel, right? Gabriel was on nobody's list. He was on nobody. I didn't hear his name one time come up in draft orders. They obviously think more of Gabriel. And then obviously they have two seasoned vets in there as well. And they're going to give them strong favor. If you don't think they're going to give, especially Flacco, strong favor, I mean, that made a big splash when he signed with Cleveland. And they're trying to get over this whole Watson mess, right? They have to turn their organization around. And as far as I'm concerned, as much as I don't like the way I feel like they are treating Sheduer in this process, they had a great draft. They had a wonderful draft. Like taking Mason second, along with their defense, which is already stellar, is going to make their defense just absolutely explode. They have a lot of weapons on offense. Jerry Jeudy, because he was with the Broncos, I actually had him as a fantasy guy too, and he sucked for me for fantasy, by the way. But he was a good receiver. He just wasn't a good receiver when it comes to fantasy points, at least the year that I had him. But I like Jerry Jeudy. I like the offensive weapons that they have. They now have a stellar running back that they drafted as well. So they have a great running game. And they've got good coaching. They really do have good coaching. So there's no reason why this team couldn't do a turnaround, kind of like Colorado did this last season, and actually have a run at a division title. I strongly feel that. And if Sheduer, and I'm going to say if, because there's a headwinds on him, but I really feel like he has what it takes to get into that room, to earn everybody's respect, to beat out Gabriel, and possibly even um, be such a shining star for the Browns that he could take over Pickett's place as well and maybe be Flacco's backup. And that's going to, again, set some people off because they're like, no, we want Sheduer to be number one this year. And I agree with you guys, but that rarely happens in the NFL, especially when you have a guy like Flacco come in and take the reins. But again, these are older guys. I mean, Flacco gets flexed on once in a game, he could go down. And then the next thing you know, if Sheduer is the number 2 QB, he's in there, right? Or if Pickett's the number 2 QB, and Sheduer is number 3, Pickett goes in, and maybe they put Sheduer in too to kind of see how that goes, especially if Pickett doesn't get it done, right? So I mean, there's so many scenarios in this. He doesn't have to start this year. He doesn't have to even be a starter this year. He just has to make the team and be in a pecking order to where he can not only be productive to where, let's say next year they decide they're going to go full on Sheduer, right? Or another team decides they want him and makes a trade for Sheduer to go to even a better team because of his draft stock there. I say draft stock. That wasn't very good. I shouldn't have said draft stock because the draft stock wasn't very high this year. But the fact that his stock actually will rise. Going from the 5th round, his stock is not going to go down, right? We know that. If he started in the 1st round, how many 1st round quarterbacks don't get their shot because they're given one shot, they mess it up, and then the next thing you know, they fall out of favor, and then people see them as a 1st rounder that basically is trash. And they're basically crapped on and they're out, right? On the other hand, you have 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th rounders or even undrafted free agents that are on the rise. And when people are seen on the rise, maybe they're not there yet, but they're seen as having rising stock, people will pay attention and they will invest in that. Sheduer can only go up now. Sheduer can only go up. The man, the entity of the NFL, whatever it is you want to call it, has in their head has knocked Sheduer down, has taken the shine off of him and that kind of stuff, and put him in his place or put him down in the 5th round where he's valued or whatever it is, right? The NFL, whatever happened there, what all the mess, right, is done. And Sheduer, in my opinion, is in a better spot now because he can only go up and he can only show people what they missed out on in the 1st round. And he can only add more value than a 5th rounder, right? He can add way more value than a 5th rounder. And my only thing with him is can he do it and make friends? Okay, because this is a business and no business is going to keep someone that they can't get along with. And that's part of business. There was a meme, that wasn't a meme, I'm sorry. It was just a post that showed Cam Ward on draft day. Nice blazer, very discreet chain. Had the ball cap on, looked very business casual, if not business, right? And somebody was saying in there, this is what NFL teams want. They want a prototypical player who is going to be basically solemn to the team that drafts them. I'm going to say it that way. And that they're not above the team. They're not too flashy, whatever it is, right? I don't know that that's true because I've seen plenty of players, loud clothing, tons of jewelry, hat on backwards when they go out there to go shake hands with Roger Goodell or whoever the commissioner is at any point in time. That's happened plenty of times, right? So I don't know that that's true. But in this scenario, if there is something out there with the Browns organization, with any organization, that says that he may not be moldable enough, that he might think he's there and that he can bring them more than they can bring him, I don't know that that's going to bode well. I think that you have to go in there and you have to change it up a little bit. Your dad's not there anymore. You don't have the rest of your family around you for the most part, and you're really on your own at this point. And the only people that can boost you up at this point in that organization is the organization itself. And you have to blend in. You have to become part of the team. You have to be a contributing, not only a contributing member from a productivity standpoint, but a productive member from a cultural standpoint. Okay, so there's the word, and I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it to the mic. Culture. Okay, there. Every organization has got their own culture. None of them are the same. Every business has got a culture. None of them are the same. You either match the culture or you don't match the culture. And the Browns organization has a very long history and a very distinct culture, apparently, right? I don't know what it is. Never been in the organization. But apparently they're having a heck of a time trying to find people that match their culture because they go through people all the time, right? And that's one of the reasons why they're so out of sync is because they can't meet, they can't find the people that matches the culture that they want to have, and it ends in disaster. And I'm just going to say that right now. I've heard um, somebody this culture thing in the NFL is a big deal. It just is. It's a big deal. But in my heart, I think that Sheduer is going to go in there and he's going to do exactly that. He obviously can interact with anybody. He can obviously lift a team, and uh, he can take players that probably weren't going to be even noticed on other teams, and he can pull them into his aura, and he can pull them up and take them to another level. And that's what he does. The problem is that he's going into an organization and he's going to have to do that from scratch. And it's going to happen. I don't know that Dylan Gabriel can do this, guys. I really don't think he can. I don't think that Dylan Gabriel can do the same thing. He's been at like 6 different schools, but at the same point, this is a completely different deal. And it's going to become very evident very quickly that Shedeur is a much better quarterback and that they drafted him way too low. And with him pulling up the rest of the team, I think this is a no brainer. I think that we're looking at, in this particular setup, the perfect situation for Shedeur. Now, with that, and we have everything else that goes along with it, with the Browns having such a great draft this year. I said, LeJohntay going to the Ravens might have been one of the best pickups because the Ravens are already there. And he is in a position where he is going to be able to catch footballs from a Hall of Famer. And that's all well and good. And I love that. But Shedeur going to the Browns and the situation that the Browns are in this year, I think that you have an opportunity for him to become the savior of Cleveland. And that said, I don't know that there's a lot of cities out there that he probably could have done that in, from the standpoint of they've already got their, they've already had success. Maybe Las Vegas. I would have loved to have seen him gone to Las Vegas more than anything else. If he didn't go to the Cowboys, because I'm a Cowboy fan, I wanted him to be a Cowboy, but it just didn't feel like that was going to happen. Having him go to Vegas would have been epic because I'm not a Raiders fan, but I'm becoming a Raiders fan more and more and more. I went by the stadium when I was in Vegas. Just the whole thing about Vegas just seems to me like it's burgeoning and they're going to be really good, really fast. And who knows, maybe he'll play there. Maybe he'll play there after his rookie contract's up. Hopefully he'll come to Dallas after his rookie contract is up, and we'll pay him, $250 million to come to Dallas and take us to a Super Bowl. I would absolutely love that. And maybe we can even get Genty in there as well after his rookie contract to make a super team, or Hampton, something like that, so we can get a running game going. Plus he'll be home at that point too. And it'll be great. That's what I'm looking forward to. Well, guys, you heard me talking this entire time about kind of the things that have transpired and all of the I don't know, negativity around Sheduer, and it seemed like it just got worse over the past month. But he is now he's drafted and it's done. And we don't have to talk about it anymore. There's still going to be some stuff out there on Twitter. People are going to be floating stuff. But now you're going to start seeing a film of him coming out in a Browns uniform and in practices and in workouts and those kinds of things. And we're going to very quickly see him start to shine again. And all of this other crap is going to be erased. El Hombre says Dylan Gabriel is a better QB. The Browns feel like with that pick, they could have picked Sanders. They didn't. The Browns traded to get that pick. I know. And we can't see every second of the draft and Shedeur's response to these things. But after a while, I think it just got to be almost like a little bit of a joke to him that, it's just like, all right, there is another quarterback that I can outshine in my rookie season. Yep, there's another one that I can outshine in my rookie season. And at that point, it almost felt to me like if he's not going to go first, he might as well be taken in the fifth so that he can show everybody along the way as he rises. He can just start checking those boxes as he goes along and saying, yep, got him. Yep, got him. Yep, got him. Yep, got him. And then the last one on the list up there is Jackson Dart, right? Because Cam is his buddy, and obviously Cam's going to be really, really good. But it seems like he wants to get to that Jackson Dart. That's just me. Maybe him and Jackson are best friends. I have no idea. But if I were Sheduer and Jackson came up and kind of took my spot from that standpoint, I want to take it back. And I feel like that's going to be something that yeah, El Hombre says confidence is never frowned upon. Gabriel has a lot of confidence. He does. Common sense buffs. Hey, common sense is in the house. It's a cold game. I agree. And that's why I kind of went down that culture piece in the NFL, because you see it every single year. These NFL teams aren't bending for anybody. They're not going to bend for anybody. They are who they are, and this is what we expect from you. And you either give it to them or you don't. And that's the problem versus the college ranks. Is you get a superstar like Sheduer, it goes to the University of Colorado. He changed the culture at the University of Colorado. Colorado didn't change the culture of him. Colorado didn't change the culture of Prime. They changed the culture of Colorado. And that can happen in college. That can happen easily, especially when you have the level of talent and the level of personality that those guys have. And it changed the culture of me at Colorado, guys. I am an old school Colorado fan. Like, I'm a crusty old Colorado fan that thinks that the 89 team was the best team ever in college football. I don't give me another. They didn't even win the national championship that year. I think that was our best team. That was 100% the best team we ever had, right? Last year, I felt like if we had one more year of Sheduer, we could eclipse that. And that's hard for me to say because all along the way, all the years since 89, I have been thinking, man, the 89 team was, I wish this was the 89 team. I wish this was the 89 team. I always loved all of our teams, but it was always searching for the team that will eclipse the 89 team. And I felt like we were on our way there. Fortunately, we kept our coach, so we still have an opportunity to get there. Unfortunately, we lost our two best players. But when you get to the NFL, it's a cold game. Doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter who you were in college. It's a great equalizer, man. It is the great equalizer. And you either make it your own and you can get out there and you can do this thing and you can make a name for yourself and change your destiny forever, or it just eats you alive. And the good news is that he has had lots of training in this from his dad and from the rest of his family and from all of the other coaches that we had at University of Colorado and all of Prime's friends throughout the years that have helped him coach in various arms of football. He has been surrounded by professionals in this. And so he has probably the best training of anybody going into this. Let's see. Here is David Wanoa says, here's my take. Oh, so Burrow. This extreme rationalization of Sheduer's is really getting sickening. He's drafted, let it go. He'll have an opportunity to shine, to show what he can do. That's true. That's true. Peter says, I love you, Chris, but culture takes a coach and a superstar. Not an owner can do it. No, I agree with that. Owners don't do it, but keep in mind that an owner wants a specific culture for their team, and they can fire the coach. The GM can fire the coach. They can fire the GM. If there is not a good culture in that organization, the only person that's left standing after everything is said and done is the owner. That's it. Everybody else is gone, right? So to say that they don't set the tone for the culture, they don't upkeep the culture. I agree with that, right? They can't just go in there. They have very little influence on the team from that standpoint. I agree with that completely. But if the culture's not going in the right direction that they want it to for whatever reason, right? The fans tell them it's not, the sponsors tell them it's not, the wins and losses tell them it's not. The owner's just going to wipe the slate clean and start over again, which the Browns continually do, it seems like, right? So, but I agree. If Shedeur's going to get in there and he's going to work his way up to where he can affect that and change that culture. But going in from where he's at right now, if you told me that he would be able to go in there and change the culture of the Cleveland Browns before the beginning of the season, I'm telling you that's not going to happen. David says, we get the Jaguars QB and we trade Sanders to the Jaguars to be okay. I like that. Peter says, you keep firing coaches and training players, you'll never have a culture. I agree with that completely. And that's what we're talking about, right? That's why those teams are picking first. Those teams are picking first because something has happened along the way and they've lost their way. It wasn't that they had a bad quarterback. It wasn't that they had a bad draft. It's just that their culture is broken and maybe they don't have the right coaching or something like that, or maybe even top-down leadership. The the owner just doesn't know how to build a team, right? You got to start with putting the coaches and the general managers in there and the supporting coaches in there, and then getting a team in there that can run an offense that your offensive coordinator and a defense that your defensive coordinator want to do. And that's a lot of moving around, man. I agree with that completely, Peter. What should be talked about are 4 buffs were drafted. That's correct. All 4. We talked about that at the beginning of the show there, Burl. Sanders is a trade to the Jaguars, and it's a deal with the GMs. Let's see. Love Move says Shedeur's been discussed more than any other player in the draft. He's probably been discussed more than any other player in any other draft. I would agree with that. By every sports organization in the world, their choice. It's not the Sanders effect. They're magnetic and it's not going away. You know, the funny thing about that is when you say that, I agree with that completely. And that's something that Cleveland's going to get out of this is they're going to get a lot of press where they probably wouldn't by taking Flacco in their organization. I mean, Flacco's a good quarterback, don't get me wrong. But it's not the splash that some of these other teams are going to get. Like, obviously, Tennessee is going to be talked about a lot because they think Cam Ward is going to turn this whole organization around. So they're going to get a lot from that. Sheduer being drafted in the 5th, you wouldn't think normally a 5th-round player would bring a lot of notoriety to a team, but he's not a normal 5th-round pick. He's a 1st-round pick that somehow was picked in the 5th, and he has a talent that can't be mistaken, and he is going to bring so much more media attention and, unfortunately, possibly scrutiny to Cleveland, just based off of the fact that there's a 4-person, technically, I guess 5, but really 4 quarterbacks that are going to be vying for a starting position with this organization. And it's going to be a media circus. It really will be a media circus. Common Sense Buff says Cleveland has a right to claim culture fit. However, it isn't the most important culture in the NFL. Is a culture of winning. I agree with that. You have to win. You have to start by building a culture. and then you have to win. And then once you win, if your culture is winning, then that's great. If you don't win, that's not your culture. It's a different culture. It's a culture of striving to win, and the decisions that you make as an owner, as a GM, and as a coach have a lot to do with how that culture is being built back, and that's what they're doing now. Peter says, my Warriors had a great fan base. They've had multiple coaches since I left. Finally, they kept Kerr and trusted players. That's right. Um, and experiencing great success. David says, so whatever do they have? The Jags, maybe QB or something we need. I think the GM and Barry have done a deal. I'm not sure about that. You have to tell me more about that. Sanders is going to look like a grain of pepper in a salt shaker of the Browns QB room. Guys, come on. I don't even know. Let's see. I mean, Deion Sanders wanted to have Sanders and Hunter. It would be a new Jags GM. Huge respect to remember. I agree. Peter says, Chris, I never really watched college and I never really watched the draft in any round. This was intense. Yeah, Peter, you've told me that before. And I watch the draft every year, but I don't watch all the way through the 7th round. I usually watch the first 2-3 rounds. I want to see where Denver's picking. I want to see where Dallas is picking. I want to see where notable college football players that I really have followed throughout the year, where they get picked. I like to see the shenanigans that are going on, kind of like this year was some shenanigans as well. The teams drafting up or trading up, trading down. This year we had some teams trade down, which is interesting. And then at the end, I like to see what team really put it together and can change their fortunes for next year. And out of all of the teams that I looked at, I honestly think the Browns are in that group. I think they're in the top 2 or 3 teams to make the trades that they made. They got a world-class running back. They got a world-class quarterback in Sheduer. They got a respectable quarterback in Dylan Gabriel. They got one of the best defensive tackle in college football, who is going to be a game wrecker with the rest of their defensive line. I really honestly think that, and the coaching there is exceptional. They have the opportunity to really step out this year. And honestly, I almost feel like they need to. With the draft that they had this year, the expectations of the Browns just went through the ceiling. And this last little cap that they put on, which is putting Sheduer in the program, that ceiling has gone, or that expectation has gone through the roof now, because people are expecting big things from this. Cleveland jersey sales immediately went up. That's right. Cleveland, I hope he gets number 2. I'm assuming he'll get number 2. I don't know who else has number 2 in Cleveland. That would be something I need to look up and check. Sanders played against Kent State talent. Okay, I don't really know. Let's see, David. I think Trevor Lawrence is on the outer in Jacksonville. You think so, huh? Let's see who else is in here. Susan's in here. And Susan says Sheduer did not want to go to a cold climate. He didn't want Cleveland or Pittsburgh, really. He didn't mind New York, but he would have preferred New Orleans or someplace warmer. Yeah, I think that was even said by Coach Prime at one point, too, that, pardon me, that he didn't want his sons playing in a cold weather environment or a team that didn't know how to win, I think is I'm paraphrasing at this point. But Cleveland, and they even said it on ESPN or NFL Network or ESPN. I can't remember which one said it last night too. That coach had come out, Deion Sanders had come out and stated earlier in the year, I think it was in January, that on a show that he was on, that he wants to make sure that there are certain teams that won't draft Sheduer. I didn't mention which ones they were, but did mention cold climate and that kind of thing in another article. But the key to this is that Cleveland is a burgeoning sports town. They have been for a long time. And there's a whole lot of, from what I know about Cleveland, which isn't much, is that at one point it was just kind of that blue collar kind of town on in the north on the lake there that it was starting to fall apart, and they've revived it, and now it's a fresh, revived town, and there's all kinds of culture going in there from the standpoint of different cultures and new building and uh, new sports teams and new development and new infrastructure and things like that. And it's become another burgeoning town again. Cleveland is becoming quite the town from what I hear. So this is a great opportunity for him to go in there and shine. Let's see. The Texas Truth is in here. 9 pros for Coach Prime. He ain't lie. He ain't lie. Y'all still sure recruits don't want to play for him? You know, that's a great point. So there are going to be some people that are going to. We had some guys hit the transfer portal. The Hood brothers hit the transfer portal, um, and a few other guys hit the transfer portal that we weren't expecting to. I was really looking forward to Brandon Hood this year. I really was looking forward to Brandon Hood this year. I made mention of it twice on a live stream. And so that kind of sucks. But at the same point, we still have some good backs. The portal is open. We're shopping right now. We're going to fill those spots. And some people were saying that those guys jumped in the portal because of what happened with Sheduer. And obviously that's a bunch of crap. Um, that's just a bunch of crap. It really is. But now that people see, and that was a very short period of time, it was one day, right? That was Sheduer in the draft and stuff. And now we have all these guys going into being picked up by pro teams, four buffs drafted, and a bunch of others picked up on free, or not free agency, but an undrafted free agent. It shows the power of this program, and we have only been 9-4 1 year. Right before that, we were terrible. So the fact that in 1 year we can make that big a difference and put that many people into the NFL, imagine what's going to happen this year with a more balanced offense, with all of the great coaches that we took on, and us developing a new team. I don't feel like we're falling off 9-4, guys. I really don't. Anybody who believes that right now is just saying that based off the fact that we lost Sheduer and Travis, right? But we can replace their productivity in other ways, right? We can be more balanced. We have some world-class tight ends. Our running game, although right now it kind of took a step back a little bit, I still feel like if it is schemed correctly, we can have a good running game. We can have a good enough running game to where it helps out our quarterbacks who are also very good, right? So there's no reason why we can't be 9-4 this year. But I agree with that statement to Texas. Hold on a second. I'm in here. Peter says, respect, Chris. I lasted as long as I could. Got to be switched to the Warriors playoff game. Yeah, there's a lot of playoff games tonight. We have the Avalanche is playing tonight too, which I need to get back into and get on. Dante S says the Steelers made a big mistake. I 100% agree with that. David comes back in and says, I mean what looks like a young GM's James Gladstone, Sanders, Hunter, Etienne Jr. This is why Barry, yes, and they had a great draft. Love Move says the Browns just activated the CU business model, millions of new eyeballs incoming. And I have to admit, I was on a Browns channel today for the first time, checking out the ticket prices. Yeah, I mean, I would love to go to a game. I've never been to Cleveland. The AFC North is a tough division. Swansley says Cleveland, the city isn't sexy, but they definitely are on the come up. David says the Jags GM wants Sanders, Hunter, Etienne. That's what I believe. The Browns are 58-71-1 since drafting Garrett. I know, but Garrett can't do the whole thing by himself. Cleveland just got a lot sexier around 3 p.m. today. That is right, guys. Yes, Tyler Brown is still at CU. That, as far as I know, I haven't seen him in the transfer portal. The Texas Truth says 9-4 is the floor. Prime don't decline and elevate every season. The history shows that. That is true. The history does show that. It's one of those. It's one of those things where we can replace the productivity. I'm 100% certain we can replace the productivity there, guys. All right. So that is what I've got to say tonight, guys. I appreciate everybody jumping in the chat. I surely appreciate the super chats, guys. Thank you very much. We're going to be back on. I'm going to try to be back on tomorrow night too, because there's going to be some stuff happening. Like, this isn't it. Some stuff happened on Twitter that I just saw that I didn't put in here. And I'm going to try to have more graphics next time. I have this new program and I'm going to get more graphics up there. But thanks for hanging out with me. This is Alpine signing off. I hope to see you in the next video. And please subscribe if you already have it.